Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Matt Fisher and the examiners. First of all, let me to introduce myself. My name is Lintani Kurniapare from English Department of UK Toraja. Thank you for the opportunity you give for me to present my proposal with the title Student Perception on the Use of Ice Breaking in Online Learning, a study during pandemic by the 7th semester students in English Department of UK Toraja. Chapter 1. Background of this research. COVID-19 was spread of the whole world and most of the countries were also exposed to this virus. Indonesia is one of the countries that exposed by this virus because the transmission of COVID-19 is so easy. COVID-19 was disrupt the line of the life include education. Therefore, to slow down the transmission of this COVID-19, especially in education world, the government decided to holding online learning. This online learning has also been undertaken by UK Toraja students since March 2020 until now. In the implementation of online learning, sometimes far from expectation. This happens because sometimes students feel bored of the learning online process with the monotonous, rigid, and less attractive from lectures, and it makes the student concentrate disrupt. According to Lucky 2010, page 15, the average human strike to be able to concentrate in a monotonous situation is only about 50 until 30 minutes. Therefore, interlude is needed so that students can return their concentration, and of course, the lectures still have techniques in overcoming student boredom in the online learning process. To solve this problem, several lectures use ice breaking technique in online learning. According to Wulandari 2012, page 3, ice breaking technique is prioritized the teaching and learning atmosphere that cheerful, enthusiastic, and not boring that can be done individually and group. This ice breaking technique is attractive and interesting for students who join the class with ice breaking implementation. It means that this ice-breaking technique applied by the lecturers in teaching during the online learning process in pandemic COVID-19 has impact for students. Refers to this issue discussed above, the researcher want to know the student perception on the ice-breaking technique implementation in online learning during the pandemic. Based on the issue stated above, the researchers scope this research only in the student perception on ice breaking used by the lecturer in online learning, particularly at Google Meeting and Zoom. Based on the background of the problem above, the research formulated the problem as follows. What are student perception on the use of ice breaking on online learning during pandemic by the 7th semester student in English Department of UK Toraja? The study aimed to find out the student perception on the use of ice breaking in online learning during pandemic by the 7th semester student in English Department of UK Toraja. The significance of this research addressed to student and lecturer. For student can give opinions about the techniques used by the lecturers in teaching. To the lecturer, by knowing the student perception on the use of ice breaking in online learning, it hopes that the result of this study can be a reference for lecturer to find out student view on implementing ice breaking in online learning. Research methodology. Since this research discusses about student perception on the use of ice breaking in online learning, then the researcher determined this research into descriptive qualitative method. Key term definition. There are 5 key term definition. First, perception. Second, online learning. Third, ice breaking. Fourth, pandemic. And fifth, the 7th semester students. Chapter 2. Review of literature. Previous study. Based on the several explanations above, there are some similarities and differences of this research. The similarities between previous study and this research are both discussed about ice breaking. The differences of previous study and this research is the previous study discussed about use of ice breaking in learning at the classroom, while in this research discuss about use of ice breaking in online learning. Some pertinent idea. Perception. De Vito argued that perception is the process when a person becomes aware of many stimuli that affect the sense, and a person becomes aware of something after seeing and understanding something. Perception can be divided into two, namely positive perception and negative perception. Online learning. According to Dabak and Ritwan, online learning is open learning system and distributed using pedagogic tools which are made possible through the internet and network-based technology to facilitate the formation of learning and knowledge process through meaningful action and interaction. Ice breaking. Suryanti argued that ice breaking was one of the activities for divert the situation from boring and sleepy, be fun, be excited and relaxed, so the learning atmosphere could melt and become more conducive to being enjoyed. Conceptual framework. Online learning in pandemic COVID-19, then implementation of ice breaking in learning. After that, student perception of ice breaking in online learning. Research method. This research used qualitative research. According to Miriam, qualitative research is an umbrella term covering an array of interpretive techniques which seek to describe, decode, translate, and otherwise come to terms with the meaning, not the frequency of certain more or less naturally occurring phenomena in the social world. Participant and setting. The researcher will involve participant as a main data source. In this research, the researcher will involve the English department of UGI Toraja students, especially the 7th semester student, as the participant in this research. This research will be conducted at the Christian University of Indonesia Toraja. Procedure of data collection. The researcher will use interview as an instrument of data collection. To do the interview, the researcher will follow the procedure below. First, the researcher will take permit letter from campus and bring to the head of the English department study program in UGI Toraja. The researcher interview the students with some question, then that prepared by the researcher. Third, after doing interview, the researcher will make some transcript of interview result. Technique analyzing data. Technique that proposed by Miles and Humberman. First, data reduction. In this step, the reader summarizes the data, choose the major material which connect them, focus on the important data such as extracting and throw out the unimportant data. Second, data display. In this step, the reader surveyed the data by shortly word which made the correlation of category from the data. Third, conclusion. In this step, the reader made the conclusion based on the result of extracting and categorizing. The process of analysis data. First, transcription. Second, extracting. Third, categorizing based on the approach. Fourth, interpretation. And fifth, conclusion. That's all my presentation. Thank you for your attention.